But if during the course of our time together, you don't enjoy yourselves, I just want to ask one thing. Fake it. Fake it. You know, we can do that. So, I can do it well. My husband's here, you can ask him. I'm just kidding, honey. So a few years ago, I was in Dallas, and I was meeting up with my friend Michelle, who was in from Virginia, which is where we both grew up. And with her were some friends of hers who actually they worked for her. And most of them I had met, except for one lady. We'll call her Olivia, because I like the name Olivia. Her name was Lydia, but I like the name Olivia, so we're gonna call her Olivia. Okay. So Michelle introduces us, and I'm like, Sandy, and she's like, Olivia, and I'm like, love the name, and we're exchanging niceties, and then Michelle's like, so, how are your kids? I was like, oh my God. My kids are making the worst decisions these days. Terrible choices. One of them stole a car and took the Williamson County 5-0 on a police chase. Another one decided it would be a good idea to sell drugs at school. I said, but you know what? I can't even tell you the other things they've done because these are the tamer of the things they've been doing. So just tell me about Meredith. How's Meredith? Meredith's her daughter. Lovely girl. And she's telling me all these wonderful things about Meredith. And then I glance over and I catch a glimpse of Olivia's face. And she's staring at me kind of like this. And that's when I realized what she was thinking. I'm like, oh no, these aren't my personal children. These are my students. I do have personal kids. I have 4, and they range in age from 31 down to 23. And I was primarily a stay-at-home mom for 25 years. And then a few years ago, when the youngest one left, I was like, you know, I plan on living till like 94, right? Not to 95. I want to live to 94 and die maybe 3 months before then, because then everybody's going to be like, oh man, she was so close to 95. And I know they'll say that because when my husband's grandfather died at 94, we all said, oh man, he was so close to 95. You know, it's like 95 is magical, but 94 is like a big old bag of donkey balls. So I plan on living to 94. And I knew I wanted to be very productive, right? I wanted to do something. I love being a mom. I love kids. So I thought, hey, why not teach? How hard could it be? Oh, sometimes I'm an idiot. And there are other times when I'm a fucking idiot. I'll let you guess which one that was. So, and I hope no one's offended by the F word. I used to not say it that much, but since I've been teaching the last few years, and I teach in middle schools and high schools, as you can imagine, I hear it a lot, obviously from other teachers, and so it's become part of my vocabulary, you know. But when I say it, in my mind, I'm spelling it with a PH, because I think it's a little more genteel, right? A little more genteel. But seriously, I knew teaching would be difficult. I mean, I have 4 kids, right? And over a span of 21 years, I had at least one child in school at any given time, right? So a lot of teachers came into our lives, and I appreciated everything they did. And I really wanted to do something that I felt would make a difference. And I have really enjoyed the last few years teaching English. Don't hold it against me tonight. We talk a lot differently than we teach, hopefully. But I also learned a lot of things. And so tonight I'm going to share with you my top 6 list, because time does not permit for a top 10. So I'm going to share with you my top 6 things I've learned as a new teacher at this age, okay? Number 6, you have to absorb the shock. And what I mean by that is that children, especially middle school kids, will say things to try to shock you. And you can't let them see that you're shocked, because then you're their bitch. You do not want to be a 12-year-old's bitch, because it goes on the whole year. So it was the second day of school last year, my 6th period 7th graders, and we were going to start our respect agreement. Do we have any teachers out here tonight? No teachers? Yeah, right there. Woo! Do respect agreements or social contracts, any of that stuff? Bless your heart, I'm glad you didn't. Good for you, because our AP last year wanted us to have it done in the first 2 weeks, so every single class had to do a respect agreement. The kids really love that, as I'm sure you can imagine. So how a respect agreement works is it's a respect agreement between you and your students, right? And it has 4 different categories. It has student to student, how does a student show respect to another student, student to teacher, how are they going to show respect to the teacher, teacher to student, and then all of us to the school. How are we going to show respect to our school community and our building? So since we were talking about the respect agreement, I decided that I would enlighten my students on my top 2 expectations. We don't call them rules because that has a negative connotation for the little children. So I said, guys, my second expectation is that, and I had written all the categories up on the board, that we don't just brainstorm and come up with a respect agreement, we actually live up to it, right? We're going to support each other, we're not going to tear each other down, we're going to live up to that. That is my second expectation. My top expectation, when there's a substitute teacher in here, because I truly feel there is nothing harder than being a substitute teacher in education. That sucks, it really does. I love substitutes. And I told my kids, I'm like, I want you to treat a substitute with the utmost respect, be on your best behavior, treat them like they're a guest in your house. And then this little 12-year-old girl with a very angelic face looked right at me and said, fuck, you must be on crack. I absorbed the shock. I was not going to be her bitch on day 2. So then, after she said that, 52 other eyes turned and stared at me. You know how I knew it was 52? I had 26 kids in there, and each one of them had 2 eyes. So I had those 52, I had her, 54 eyes staring at me as if to say, so teacher lady, how you going to handle that? So I just picked up my dry erase marker, walked over to the board, never took my eye off of her until I wrote on there, students will show respect to the teacher by not telling her she's on crack. And then I said, what else have you got? What else can we put up here? So that is number 6. You have to absorb the shock. Number 5, you have to realize that your feelings are going to get hurt sometime, right? Your feelings are going to get hurt. Feelings are going to get hurt, and they're going to get hurt at times when you are not expecting it. Right before Thanksgiving, I was having a conversation with one of my favorite students. Her name is Destiny, and that's really her name if she ever sees it. Yes, Destiny, you are my favorite. So anyway, Destiny and I are having a chat, and she's talking about how, last Thanksgiving, she's like, last Thanksgiving was rough on my granny, and I really don't want her to have to do all the work like she did last year. I'm like, well, why don't you help her? She's like, well, she likes doing the work. I'm like, but, She's like, but I really worry about her because, she's getting up there in age, and I just don't like to see her working so hard. But I've got to say, she gets around pretty good for her age. She can even run. I've seen her do it. And then I asked Destiny, how old is she? 58. Oh my God, I'm so Y'all, it's my birthday today. I'm 56 today. I hope in 2 years, when I'm 58, that I can even run. Although I don't see it happening because I sure as hell can now. But that is number 5, is your feelings will get hurt. Number 4, if a student ever says to you, hey, miss, can I teach tomorrow? You say, yes, you can. Doesn't even matter what they're going to teach. Yes, you can. My first year teaching, I taught high school, and my 5th period, was your class period after lunch your hardest period by any chance, most challenging, do you remember? Was that ever a difficulty for you?
The rest of the day.
The rest of the day, well for me, it's generally 5th period. My first year teaching, my 5th period class was insane. It may not surprise you to know that both the car thief and the drug dealer were in 5th period. They really were. And everybody else at my school, I was hearing 5th period is so hard. Right after lunch, made you wonder what they were feeding them there. Were they feeding them raw meat? What the hell was going on? It would have been nice if they'd sprinkled a little Benadryl in there every once in a while. I could make them go to sleep just to slow them down, right? But I had this one girl in there who always gave me such a hard time. Always gave me such a hard time. And she came to me one day and she's like, Miss Moranto, can I teach tomorrow? I'm like, sure, what you want to teach? She goes, I want to teach these kids about respect. And the first thing I thought was, this child has no self-awareness. Not any. I said, absolutely you can teach about respect tomorrow. How much time you need? Whole period? 10, 15 minutes you do. I'm like, okay, great, sounds wonderful. Next day rolls around, they're all coming after lunch all crazy, and I was like, let's calm down. We're gonna have a guest teacher today. And I'm like, let's clap her in. So she gets up there and she's like, okay, to talk to y'all about respect. Because none of you are being respectful to Miss Maranto. First thing you need to do when you come in here to be respectful is shut the fuck up. This little boy, Dominic, he's like, Miss Maranto, the irony's through the roof. And I'm like, yay, he understands irony. Made me so proud. And then she went on to say, and another thing to show respect, you need to look Miss Maranto in the eyes. I look her in the eyes because it's a sign of respect. Now, you don't even have to really be listening to what her saying, because I'm telling Miss Maranto half the time, I don't know what you're saying. But I look you in the eyes, so it's respect. So number 4, if a child asks you if they can teach, I've learned, yes, you let them do that. Now, on a little more serious note, one thing I've also learned is I never tell a child when they're wrong. Well, I'll tell them when they're wrong on a paper or a test, but if they are brave enough to answer a question, they really don't have a choice because I make them answer. In my class, I'm not going to tell them they're wrong. Do y'all remember what it felt like when you weren't prepared in school and you had that feeling in the pit of your stomach like, please God, don't let my teacher call on me? If there are any of you in here who were always prepared and never had that feeling, fuck you, hard F. But I hated that feeling, and I don't want my students to feel like that. So no matter what they say, I never tell them they're wrong. Like, for example, I might be like, okay, let's see, Johnny, can you tell me about the figurative language in Langston Hughes' poem, Mother to Son? And he might say, 27. So, he has no idea what class he's in. And my response is usually something like, yeah, you know what? I wouldn't have thought of that. That's really interesting, and I like your thought process, but can somebody else help? So I never want to make a child feel uncomfortable and tell them they're wrong. But when I'm wrong, I make sure I say it. And I'm not talking about content area. I'm talking about when I wrong a child. Nothing feels worse than when you do something wrong to a child. Just last week, in my AP Lang and Comp class, this girl had asked me, one of my students, she had her journal out. She's like, Miss Maranto, why did I just get a 50 on this? And I said, well, look what you did. And she's like, I did the assignment. I'm like, you didn't do as much as you should have. You didn't do what I asked you to. And she's like, I still don't understand why I had a 50. And I said, look at this. Does it look like 2 days worth of work? And she's like, I think so. I'm like, no, it's not. I said, Keshla was only here 1 day and did 3 times that amount of work, and I felt like the biggest piece of shit on the planet. I called her out, and I compared her to another student. Felt like shit. So I taught a lesson, and then I happened to notice her, and she's got her head down, and I'm scared she's crying because I feel so bad. So I wrote her a note. I was like, hey, I owe you an apology. I am so sorry. I shouldn't have called you out in front of the class. If you want me to apologize publicly in front of everyone, I will. But if you're uncomfortable with that, I won't. But as an apology, I am going to drop that low grade. So I went over and I just tapped her on the shoulder, and she sat up, and I gave it to her, and she read it, and she looked very confused. And then she handed her to her friend who read it and also looked very confused. And then she came over to me and she goes, it's okay, Ms. Maranto. I know that assignment sucked, and I'm just tired, I'm sleeping. She's like, it's really okay. And I was like, it's really not. Because it might be okay with you, but it's not okay with me. And then the number one thing that I've learned is why teachers are staying. Because there are tons of reasons why they're leaving, right? Tons. I don't have enough time to get into that. But we stay because of the kids, right? We stay. Sometimes we might leave because of them too, but we stay because of them. And I'm going to share something with you right now, and I'm going to warn you, it's going to make me look really good. Make me look really good. But it's not about, this isn't me. It's not, it's why we do this is to make kids feel this way. And I'm going to tell you, every single teacher has a student who feels this way about them and who makes a student feel this way. Even if you think a teacher, you're like, that teacher sucks. Even if you think that teacher sucks a larger bag of donkey balls than the age 94, they have a teacher, they have a student who feels this way about them. So I'm going to just read a couple of excerpts from something a student read me, and this is why I stay in this profession. She's like, dear Ms. Maranto, yada, 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 really nice things. Won't go into all that, that's too braggy. And so then she says, it warms my heart and makes me grateful and happy to know that I have a teacher who likes me for me and that I can talk to. You have opened up more self-confidence and love than I ever thought I could have for myself, which I didn't think would be possible a year ago. You can make everyone think they are more than capable and more than enough. I hope you know you're a comfort place for so many. This is Teacher Crack, y'all, and fuck, I'm on